Hello, everybody. I wanted to do some reading for you tonight for my The Void series. I originally was going to just leave this series for space, but I think I'm going to incorporate some other interesting topics that I feel are incorporated with it. So, I'm just going to read an article that's called Awakening to Wholeness, because not only does it interest me, but it is something that I am living through right now. And I guess we'll just begin. So just relax, lay back or sit back in your chair and just listen to my voice and forget about the world. Awakening to Wholeness describes a twofold path of awakening that combines psychological and spiritual development. Psychology is concerned with the personal aspects of our being. Example, your body, your emotions, your mind, and your ego self. And spirituality is concerned with the transpersonal aspects of our being, such as your soul and true self. Psychological development means growing up psychologically. Example, freeing ourselves from the childish, defensive, reactive, and egotistical programming that keeps us from living life fully, consciously. It involves mastering, not repressing our minds, hearts, and bodies to free ourselves from the fears, inhibitions, conditioned behaviors, reactive emotions, critical judgments, and limiting beliefs that prevent us from living happy, peaceful, and fulfilling lives. This is achieved by dissolving the negative psychological material that keeps us trapped in these old patterns, and by actively expressing positive qualities in our daily lives. Spiritual development means waking up spiritually. Example, raising our level of consciousness to connect with our true self, and widening our breadth of consciousness to experience life more fully. It is not about transcending the world. It is about bringing higher levels of consciousness down into our being and expressing them in our daily lives. It is about being here as fully as we can and experiencing all of life. There is nothing we can actually do to spiritually evolve because it is the result of not doing, undoing, or being. Simply being is at the core of every authentic spiritual practice, including meditation, mindfulness, and even prayer. Awakening to wholeness clearly and comprehensively describes the dynamics of human consciousness, ego development, psychological healing, personal development, and spiritual growth. It also includes a range of powerful transformational tools, techniques, and practices that can help us to understand why we think and behave the way we do, heal and reintegrate the wounded parts of our psyche, manifest our potential, let go of things that are holding us back, lead a happier, richer, and more fulfilling life. Know and express our true self. Realize that what we have been searching for has always been there inside of us. Recognize that the opportunity to awaken is always right here and now. I don't want anybody to think that this is preaching. When we were born, our personal consciousness was undeveloped and inexperienced, and we had very little understanding of the world outside of us. As we learned about the world, we gradually constructed a mental model of how we believed things were out there. The more we learned about the outer world, the more complex our inner world model became. Over time, it developed into a meticulously detailed, virtual representation of reality. The virtual reality world inside our mind was a near perfect representation of the real world, but it was and still is colored by our beliefs and distorted by our misconceptions. Our interactions with other people helped us to fit them into our inner model, and their interactions with us helped us to fit ourselves into our inner model. The concept of self we developed through our interactions with others was that we are a separate individual who is contained within a physical body. This was very different to our inherent sense of true self, which is pure, radiant, infinite, and one with everything. So, At this early stage of life, we had a sense of two different selves, our true self and our false concept of self. The two selves were so different that we didn't know which one to go with. We didn't know who we were. Our parents related to us as if we were a separate individual in a physical body, our false self, not as if we were an infinite, radiant being, our true self. They interacted with our false self and pretty much ignored our true self. Only our false self got validated. So we eventually went with that one. Essentially, the false self came into being because we were not seen for who we truly are. Our false self became our identity, and our virtual inner world became our home. Obviously, we can't live solely in our virtual world because we have to eat, drink, and interact with the real world in order to survive. We have to maintain a connection between our virtual world and the real world. So we project our virtual world and virtual self out into the real world. This gives us the impression that we, the false self, are living in the real world. We perceive the real world with our virtual world, seamlessly projected over it. This virtual world overlay is what makes an anorexic person believe they are fat, or a tone-deaf person believe they are a great singer. When our two images of reality don't match up, when our real world experiences clashes with our inner world expectations, our inner world and our false self are destabilized. This makes us anxious, so we feel compelled to reinforce our false sense of self and our model of reality by justifying, denying, or blaming someone else. Our false self is in control of its virtual inner world, but it has very little influence on the real outer world. So we often get frustrated when things don't go our way. Our virtual world provides the added benefits of distancing us from the confusing, distressing, and traumatic situations of the real world. As a young child, we learned how to use our virtual world as a psychological buffer to soften the impact of real world distress. It allowed us to block out or distort certain aspects of our reality, paint a rosier picture of our life, and to justify the other people's negative behavior towards us. It allowed our innocent, immature consciousness to cope with the sometimes harsh realities of the real world Over time, we stopped perceiving the real world directly because it felt safer to perceive life indirectly through the intermediary of our mind. Over time, we become so identified with our false self and our virtual world that we fell asleep to objective reality and forgot who we truly are. This is the root cause of most of our difficulties in life. We have lived most our lives not knowing who we truly are, and not knowing why we can't find lasting happiness or fulfillment. We have tried everything we could to think of to feel happy, but nothing really satisfies us for long. So we keep striving and strategizing in the hope that one day everything will be perfect. But no matter what we do or how hard we try, lasting happiness always seems to elude us, and lasting fulfillment is always just out of reach. If we sincerely want to know authentic peace, happiness, and contentment, we need a new strategy for life. What do we actually need is no strategy, no doing, just being. We have been doing all our lives, and it hasn't really got us anywhere. We need to realize experientially that what we seek has been there all along, right inside us. Well, there's that. So, I didn't pre-read that article. I actually just kind of started reading it and thought it sounded pretty interesting, but I hope this was